Hey, what's up everybody? It's Joe from Gadgetry Tech, and in today's video I'm going to talk about a $200 headset from AceZone. This is called the A-Blace, which is kind of convenient timing considering the current season going on with Call of Duty, but I digress. So this headset is interesting because at $200 there's obviously going to be some sacrifices to the higher end headsets like the A-Spire. However, this does not sacrifice in a lot of key areas, and that's going to be the big differentiator on value, because when you start comparing this on paper to a lot of other competitors for $200, this thing comes out way on top. For one, there's full 8-band parametric EQ on board, which means it saves to the headset and you can customize the daylights out of this for your sound profiles. AceZone gives you a lot of presets predefined on the mobile app. So if you have an Android or iOS device, you can install the AceZone app and then change the settings on the headset or create your own, and you have a lot of slots you can create. Now, this also applies for PlayStation because it saves to the headset, so this is a killer feature. This will not work on Xbox because there's no 3.5mm analog connection, and the wireless dongle does not work on Xbox. If you purchase either of the A-Spire headsets, which are over $300, those have a 3.5mm connection and can connect to your Xbox. Thanks to firmware and software updates, you can still take advantage of parametric EQ. So I just want to explain that real quick to avoid any confusion. Now, another thing this has is Bluetooth support, and it supports aptX, including HD and lossless. It also has aptX adaptive and AAC for Bluetooth, which is really important if you're an iPhone user and you want to listen to music. AAC will sound a little bit better on an Apple device. So lots of good Bluetooth support there. It's not simultaneous Bluetooth. Not a lot of headsets are in this price range. Some are, like the SteelSeries 7X, the Nova 7X, for example, but the codec support is huge. This also has active noise cancellation, which basically is not done on a gaming headset at this price range, period. And when you factor in the Bluetooth codec support, this is a legitimately good headphone to travel with. I'll get into ANC performance. The mic isn't detachable, so you'll always have a mic kind of sticking up or secured to the headset. But between the codec support and active noise cancellation, that's a pretty killer feature. Now, AceZone did send this to me for review. It won't affect what I say about it, obviously, but I didn't want to hide that. I also don't do any special affiliate links with AceZone. It's just going to be generic Amazon affiliate codes like I do with all the stuff I list and discuss. So purchase it however you like. The links below is just to help you find the product. Obviously, with Amazon, I get a small kickback from that, but there's nothing special set up with the brand. As far as what's included in the box, you get a USB A to C charge cable. It's long enough to charge while you use it, and it's a TPU, like rubber jacket cable. Pretty straightforward stuff, nothing special there. And then you get the transmitter. Now, this is a USB-C transmitter, which allows you to plug it into quite a lot of things, and if you don't want to use USB-C, it comes with a USB A to C adapter. Now, I tried both of these with and without the adapter just to make sure it didn't impact range. On the toilet test, as far as wireless range goes, I like to call it the toilet test. If you are leaving the room, obviously you might go to the kitchen. I got over 60 feet with this transmitter, and even if I did not use the USB-A extension, my range was the same, which was great. So basically only use this adapter if you need it out of necessity, but don't feel like you have to get better wireless performance. Your mileage will vary, of course. If this is really close to a lot of other devices that either emit their own noise, then yeah, an extension or this adapter might improve wireless performance. So as far as comfort goes, the headset is extremely light, and so is the clamp force. It's light enough where I get a pretty consistent seal, but it's not like a vice-like grip. And if you have thinner frame glasses, it's extremely comfortable for glasses, because even though these pads aren't super thick, they're very compliant at the surface level, so it kind of swallows up a thin frame glasses without much of an issue. Comfort overall is excellent for me. Obviously, depending on your head shape, you might feel a little pressure on top, but this headset itself is rather light, so it's nothing unbearable. The only things that I notice is because these ear cups are slightly smaller, or at least the opening is, the only pressure point I feel is there's a little bit of a contact just behind my ear. If I'm gaming for several hours at a time, that's the first point of soreness that I get with this particular headset. I think with any headset or headphone you wear for a long period of time, eventually you're going to have some discomfort somewhere. And because this is so comfortable elsewhere, I just want to point out where I notice it that affects my long-term gaming. Quit popping it off the ear for a short break and I'm good to go for another few hours. If traveling is important, the A-Blace does still have a foldable yoke design for travel and stowing away, but it does not come with a case, unlike the A-Spire, which has this nifty little design, and of course the A-Rise comes with one as well. As far as the overall design of the headset, you have a telescoping yoke, which has the metal headband reinforcement, and this is kind of like the wire path for the inside. You also get on the left side the power button, and this toggles your active noise cancellation. You press and hold this power button to handle obviously power cycling the headset, but if you tap it while it's on, it'll give you a quick verbal readout. There are voice tones that tell you how much battery life is left in the headset. This toggles ANC mode, which starts by off, then ANC on, and then transparency mode. I really like the transparency mode if you want to actually hear your surroundings. It works extremely well, but that's a real quick, easy way to toggle. Then on the right side, you have volume controls and your play, pause, action button. This does work on, of course, your mobile device. If you're using it for Bluetooth, it will adjust the volume. And when you're connected to Windows, this will adjust the volume on Windows. So it's the exact same control. This is not a separate volume adjustment for your host. If you're playing on PlayStation, it is a separate volume. So if you find that the audio is lacking on PlayStation, which I actually found it to get pretty loud on PlayStation, you can use this to adjust your volume on your headset, but also make sure that your audio output on PlayStation is maxed out or close to it in order to get the overall volume capability that this has. Now the microphone is not detachable, but it is flip to mute, and they dialed back the resistance a little bit on the flip to mute mechanism. So even if I adjust it from right here, it's very easy to mute on and off. So pretty straightforward controls, no complaints there. Now each cup has a cutout for the microphones built into it. This is what's being used for transparency mode and the active noise cancellation feature. So just in case you're wondering what that is, that's what that's for. I want to briefly compare this to the A-Spire and the A-Rise. And the A-Spire, this is the wireless version. It's the closest one from a feature set that compares to the A-Blaze. There are a couple minor tweaks. For one, the A-Spire has a silver yoke, whereas the A-Blaze is all black. So that's the easiest way to see the differences. The other one, which I've noticed, is this uses a different microphone system. So when you look at the capsule on this, it seems more straightforward, but there is a major improvement based off feedback I know I and other people have provided. So on the A-Spire, you can see it's a smooth surface and it has this like open capsule. It's a different microphone system. This uses XMEMS technology for the pickup. They have pretty much the same exact sensitivity, so they're about as loud, and the voicing on this is still excellent, but we'll do a mic test shortly. The big kicker though is you notice the sock on the old one is smaller, and this is all smooth. This came with an extra foam sock in the package before because these were known to fall off. That was some criticism I had on the A-Spire. On the A-Blaze, because you have these rings right here, there is grip. And once you slide that sock over, it is significantly more stable and there's more grip. And I never had an issue with it coming off. So this was a huge improvement to me overall. The rest of the chassis is basically the same as well. You have the exact same ear pad design, which is an oval shape with a 60mm height and a 40mm width. In the depth, there's a little bit of compression here. You can kind of see this moves in just a little bit. I basically measure the depth until it starts to touch the fabric because I don't want to count the give as additional depth because your ears are technically going to touch it. So I got about 22mm of depth before I'm starting to poke the fabric. It's designed to have the driver as close as possible to your ear. If your ears protrude out quite a bit and you've had issues with more shallow ear cups in general, you will likely be touching the baffle on this. Now it's a little bit springy, so you'll feel the fabric at first. Then when you get to about 25mm, that's when it kind of bottoms out on the plastic. Just like the A-Spire, the A-Blaze has removable ear cups. It just kind of pops off and you can see the driver inside. Now this still uses an active noise cancellation system like I said, so that's what that black thing is, and it doesn't protrude out too much, so even though your ears might compress into this a little, this was never an issue. Even when I pushed in on it to create more a more shallow cup, that never stuck out as like a pain point for me. You can see the dampening material here, and this little foam gasket helps to create the seal. So there's a lot of work put into the tuning, which is going to lead me to sound quality here shortly. But this is nice because it's swappable, so if your pads ever wear out or break down, you can always get new ones. Now these are a leatherette pad, so when you use a pad like this, it's going to help with noise isolation. That's the primary goal. It's a big selling point with AceZone is active noise cancellation and noise blocking capability. That's why they even have the A-Rise. So it's not going to be as breathable. That's by design, and it does affect the tuning. You also have a matching leatherette top pad here. It's a pretty basic chassis design. You have full swivel and tilt. Comfort is not really an issue for me, but I don't know if you can hear it on the mic. There is a little bit of creak on my left cup. I've kind of had that inconsistently happen with other models, so you might get no creak whatsoever. My A-Spire wireless has zero creak, or you might have it on both. It's nothing that like causes creaking while you're wearing it. So once it's settled, it's fine. It's just a design of this hinge. This isn't a massive company, so they're not going to reinvent the wheel with every single model. The amount of resources that takes is quite extreme. So let's get into a couple other things. Now, this guy is the A-Spire wired. it's the exact same headset as the wireless, just without the wireless chip. So as far as the design features and all that goes, it's the exact same thing. It just lacks 2.4 gigahertz wireless. The wireless range of both of these are pretty much the same. Every now and then I had like a little bit of a hiccup on the wireless transmission of my version of the A-Spire wireless, but several firmware updates have come out since then to improve stability, and the a-blace has never had a wireless cutout issue. So I already talked about the range earlier being over 60 feet, which is pretty extreme. Speaking of extreme, this is the A-Rise. This thing is over $700. It is not your at-home headset. I just want to keep in mind, just because this is really expensive doesn't mean it's the best headset for you at home. What you're paying for with this headphone is extreme noise cancellation. These cups are no joke. These cups are not crazy comfortable. This is designed to have a vice-like grip on your head where it's, even before you turn it on, has so much passive noise isolation, it's like comparable to some protective headwear you wear at a shooting range. It's designed to block out crowd noise as extreme as possible. This also has a really aggressive active noise cancellation to actively filter out noise on top of it, and that noise cancellation technology trickles into the microphone. So if you're playing in an actual esports tournament, think 30,000+ people in an arena or more, so dream big. This is so you can still talk to your teammates and they can hear you without hearing all of that crazy crowd background noise. That's the whole point of their Rise, but because of this really strong clamp, these strong noise isolation, and the slightly stiffer pads, this isn't going to be the most comfortable headset to wear at home. So the A-Spire also has microphone background noise rejection. So if you have a loud environment and you don't want your friends to hear it, maybe someone's vacuuming, maybe you have a loud HVAC, or maybe you are living with your mom and she's telling you to take a shower, this is going to help block some of that noise out. It also impacts the microphone side tone. So if you don't want to hear your own PC fans, for example, or an HVAC system, this is kind of cool because it blocks that noise as well. Again, without needing any special software, so you can benefit from a lot of these special features even if you're a PlayStation gamer. The A-Blaze does not have noise cancellation on the mic. It's a more open sounding mic, which can help with certain sound quality and pickup because there's no aggressive noise gate, but you will hear the background noise more with this guy. If you don't have transparency mode on or microphone side tone on, you're not really going to hear background noise with the A-Blaze either. Now, it doesn't have the crazy active noise cancellation tech on the microphone, but with traditional ANC, which is technically a lower quality ANC than the A-Spire, this is still an exceptional ANC performance and still beats pretty much all rivals regardless of price. That's how good this is. So their lower quality ANC at $200 still beats and exceeds the performance of both the SteelSeries Nova Pro Wireless and the Turtle Beach Stealth Pro. Speaking of microphones, this is what the microphone sounds like on the A-Blaze. I'm not doing any changes in post-production. This is just a straight up recording on Windows Sound Recorder with the audio enhancements turned off. And this is what my voice sounds like. It's not a bad microphone. It's not going to sound as good as the Razer Black Shark, but this has other features the Black Shark doesn't. So it just kind of depends on, what you value in terms of a feature set. Now on the app for AceZone, you can't customize the microphone sound profile whatsoever. Pretty much all headsets under 200 you can't unless you're using Windows software. Now the A-Spire has a different microphone system, and on the software you have different custom EQ options to change the voicing of it. Just for comparison, this is the A-Spire microphone with no changes in post-production as well. Now I'm using the AZ default microphone profile because I mentioned you can customize the sound signature of the A-Spire. So if I click this drop down and click flat, and now it's applied, this is with no EQ changes. This is what my voice sounds like using the flat profile. Here is the warm profile, which I'm actually hearing a slight difference even on the microphone side tone. So you're kind of previewing a little bit of what the recording is actually picking up. I just wanted to show you the difference in the versatility of this. This is part of why you pay for the A-Spire wireless, is the ability to customize the mic. Quick note on the microphone side tone, you will not hear side tone if your microphone is not active. So if you just connect your headset and you're listening to music on your PC and you flip down the mic, if you're not in a Discord call or a game that's using the microphone, you're not going to hear any side tone turn on. As soon as your microphone goes active for chat, you will then hear it. So I just want to quickly point that out in case you're wondering why you don't hear yourself. So now I want to get into sound quality, starting with the measurement side, and I use a Gross KB006X Pentaclone with an IC711 coupler clone. You don't have to know what that means. I say this on every video because I never want to hide this, but I will have a link in the description below if you want to look at frequency response of many other headsets and headphones I've measured. This is just looking at it from an objective standpoint, again, where there's a measurement involved and it's not just me kind of trying to, use audio terms to describe the sound. So if we look at the sound profile, this represents the default sound profile, AZ Gaming, which I confirmed if you are doing custom EQ on your own and it's set to perfectly flat, they measure the exact same way. So if you are looking to use my tools for auto EQ, just keep in mind that it's based off AZ Gaming, or AKA the flat profile. Now I do want to note that ANC being on or off does impact the sound quality. So if I turn ANC off, the red line, which is not good for the colorblind, here's a light blue. As soon as you disable ANC, you lose some of the bass response. I feel like this headset is tuned with ANC in mind. And when I do my custom EQ, when you get a headset like this, ANC performance is a huge reason why. So I would just leave it on because there's no real negative byproduct of this one. It doesn't have a weird pressure sensation because of its design. So it doesn't have a lot of fatiguing issues, at least for me in my gaming. And I used it for a long period of time. Having said all that, regardless of which profile you use, you can see a relatively modest bass bump here. It'll sound a little bit warmer, at least compared to the Keymar diffuse field target for my particular rig. There is a recess at 2000 Hertz, and then it kind of picks up closer to 3000 Hertz. The biggest issue I have really is just the spike at 8000 Hertz. And I do hear that same spike when I wear it. So my custom EQ reduces it. That's one of the #1 points of frequency response that causes listening fatigue for me. So I don't need that extra sparkle or shimmer or metallic sound. Anything that has more of a metallic resonance or ring to it, glass breaking, things like that, they come in really strong at 8000 Hertz. So that's my only real gripe with the default sound profile. Again, considering this is a $200 headset, before we've even done EQ, the sound profile is quite nice. So just to quickly compare to the A-Spire wireless, if I have ANC off on both headsets, they measure almost the same. This is within a margin of variance because anytime that you shift the headset around on the measuring rig or your head, it can change frequency response a little bit. So they are basically the same. These use the same drivers, the same ear cup technology. So you're getting almost the same exact sound quality from model to model. And just to take it a step further, if I turn on ANC, and let me hide this guy and this one, and we'll look at the ANC performance. Again, you can see it's somewhat close. Now, the A-Blaze has a slightly warmer profile, at least my unit does, but I do want to call out that the channel balancing channel matching is excellent on this. This really helps with imaging performance too. Now, this isn't the perfect sound signature for me. It's not bad, and because they have different competitive sound profiles baked into it, actually the Apex Legend ones is really good for Apex. It's a very specific tuning for it. I'm not a fan of some of the other tunings for different games, and I play a lot of Call of Duty, so I made my own EQ preset, which even when I just did it by ear, almost perfectly matched my Call of Duty Warzone preset that I did after a lot of measurements. So that was really cool to see. But I am very pleased to say that after talking with AceZone, they're going to be adding my EQ to the app. So if people want to do this, it's not there at the time of filming this today, but it will be eventually, probably with the next app update, as long as everything goes to plan. In the meantime, if you want to add my EQ to your headset and call it whatever you like, here are my EQ settings. To add this profile or customize the A-Blaze sound signature, all you have to do is install and load the AceZone app. Simply tap your headset once you've done the whole pairing process, and you will see different sound signatures. Now, I mentioned that AceZone provides you with different EQ presets, and you can see AZ Gaming, Counter-Strike, Apex. They do have one for Call of Duty, which isn't bad. I just wanted one more specific. Open world, this changes like immersion and bass response. These don't have a lot of bass out of the box, but you can easily push the bass, and they handle quite a bit more than how it's presented. So you have a lot of flexibility on EQ. Now, I have my profile selected already, but if you want to make your own, all you have to do is click New and create a label. Call it whatever you like, and then that's going to get into the customization screen. So in this case, because I made mine, I'm going to hit the little pencil icon so I can modify it, and they give you 8 points of adjustment. To customize it, all I have to do is tap a number, and you can see decibels, hertz, Q factor, and filter. This is cool because they actually let you do a low shelf, which is not common with gaming headsets whatsoever. And a low shelf is basically going to take all that stuff above or below a certain point and kind of table it up and down. It's a very broad adjustment. You typically only see low shelf on the outermost points if you're using it, which is what I'm doing in my particular case. So on this point, I hit low shelf. I hit a Q factor of 0.7, which is rather wide. I targeted 39.5 hertz. I probably just moved it a little bit when I tapped it. So we're going to fix this and type 40, if I can actually type this correctly here. hit set, and there I'm good to go. Now decibels is at minus 2.5 dB, and you can slide this up and down to adjust it, and you'll see it move. You can see that kind of visualization. So it's kind of nice that you're seeing your changes. We're going to tap it again. I'm going to hit 2.5. Now I did point out to the developers of this app that only on the set gain setting, you see setter instead of set. It's just a typo. It still works, but I just want to point that out. Now you're limited to 8 points, like I said, and if you don't have all 8, just click add point at the top. Anytime you make a new preset, you only get like 2 that are already there, maybe 3. And then you can add your own additional ones from there. And it kind of adds them randomly on the line, so just keep an eye out at where the new points are showing up. On mine, if you click on number 3, you can see plus 3.5 decibels, frequency of 110 hertz, Q factor of 1.8, and I am using a peaking filter. So the adjustability is huge. You can go all the way up to plus 12, which is massive, and all the way down to minus 12. So you have a huge range in frequency response adjustment, at least at the time of filming this. So again, if I don't want to use the slider, I can just double click. I'm going to type 3.5 again and then click set. And now I'm good to go. So I've saved the profile, and just to quickly show you the software, in addition to EQ, you can adjust the microphone side tone, which you slide up and down, and I'm at plus 10, which is the most extreme. Even 0 sounds pretty natural. I kind of just boosted it because I was doing a lot of testing, and you can quickly toggle that on and off. If you go to system, you have the ability to change a standby timer, which is, if you click on it, it gives you the information. So if you're not connected or not using the headset, you can have it go to sleep after 30 minutes. What's killer about this feature is you can set it up to 8 hours or 4 hours. This is really helpful if you're traveling, because if you just want an active noise cancellation headset on the plane, this will work great for that and greatly reduce ambient noise whether you're using it or not. And then if you're using it as a Bluetooth headset or headphone for travel, that's obviously nice as well. Now, just like the A-Blaze, I have full custom parametric EQ for the A-Spire thanks to recent firmware updates, and you can even pick the profile you already made in case you had multiple AceZone headsets in the past. Now, there's also transparency mode, active noise cancellation control, and a few other modes. These are the additional features you're paying for because it has a much smarter chip that's handling noise cancellation. Transparency is huge. This is how much you can hear your surroundings. This has transparency as well, and one thing that's super cool is it sounds very natural. There's no delay, and you don't need the microphone side tone to still be able to hear yourself speak. So if you don't need active noise cancellation, transparency mode is a nice way to hear yourself and kind of break down the fourth wall, I guess, so you can kind of be present again in your surroundings. But on the A-Spire, you have the ability to fine-tune how much of that you hear. You also have the ability to dial back how active the noise cancellation is in case you don't like the effect of it, which can reduce fatigue a little bit because this one is more extreme. If you have it maxed out, it just might be a little too aggressive, especially when you're walking or moving around. And that also applies for outside mode. If you tap the info button, basically it helps with wind noise. So their microphones are on the outside of the headset. That's kind of what's listening to your ambient surroundings. And if there's a lot of wind blowing on those, it can affect ambient or ANC performance outdoors. So you would toggle this on, and that is a different protocol or a different algorithm for noise cancellation. Obviously, I'm going to turn that back off because I'm inside, and you even have glasses mode, which you can choose which frame thickness you have. So if the temples are thick versus thin, that will affect the way not only ANC performs, but how the sound quality is of the headset. So you can toggle through these modes as well to compensate. I already mentioned that you can customize the microphone performance, so I'm not going to spend too much on here, but you can also create your own custom parametric EQs for your voice, which is huge. And if you go on the System tab, you have the same ability to adjust your sleep timers. So now that we know we can customize the sound profiles, we know how it sounds out of the box, let's talk about subjective performance in gaming. And out of the box, these sound okay. I think the real potential is with the embracing of all of their custom EQ profiles because it's tailored for your personal preferences and what games you're playing. The AZ Gaming is kind of like a safe neutral out of the box. It's not a lot of bass. It's not really bright and sharp sounding. The 8K peak is really my only point of contention with the sound profile out of the box, but I don't find it as competitive as going with custom EQ. This is good for just honestly plugging in and going if you're playing casual games, even if you're playing FPS. This is still going to be a solid headset, and I think it still beats even in the stock sound profile. It's still better than other headsets I've used like Corsair, Black Shark, and even the Logitech G Pro X2 wireless. The big kicker with these guys though is when you do custom EQ and you really extract what this headset can do. The bass is rather light out of the box, as I mentioned, and stuff like the new Void 2 wireless has a better bass delivery, especially when you EQ that one. The Logitech G Pro X2 wireless has a better bass delivery with the graphene drivers. It just doesn't sound as competitive or resolving when it comes to footstep tracking and audio cues. And then when you EQ this and take it a step further, things really start to come to life. I do want to point out that these do not get crazy loud. This is shipping from a company in Europe, and as a result, it's subject to the EU noise regulations. And headsets like SteelSeries allow you to toggle the volume limiter to make the headset louder, or at least unleash it. This still gets loud, but I find that often, because the design of this having the volume on the right ear cup and then you can adjust the Windows volume, I'm pretty much sitting above 80 on Windows every time I'm playing. And for some people, that will seem like it might be a mental thing where you're like, yeah, I'm pretty much maxed out all the time. You don't really need to go much louder than 90, in my opinion. But even if you're at 90, 95, that's still quite loud. I think just knowing that you're almost maxed out is going to be somewhat of a hesitation for some people. Now, this leads me to something that's really special about the AceZone lineup in general and really valuable at a $200 price point. And that is you only have one set of ears. And once you damage them and ruin your hearing, that's permanent. So you don't want to go too loud all the time. Some people play it louder to compensate for a poor performance otherwise. You know, if you're trying to hear footsteps or the quiet sounds, but it's not a super detailed or well-tuned headset, you turn it up to kind of compensate and still be able to hear what's going on. The problem is airstrikes and gunshots and explosions happen, and that is significantly louder, like over 105, 110 decibels in a lot of cases for how people play. Whereas the ambient stuff is like 60 to 75 decibels. That is a massive swing, and it sounds more immersive, but all of that loud stuff is hurting your hearing. And when you do custom EQ, especially when I get rid of like the 8 kilohertz peak, you don't have to be as loud with this headset to still hear a lot of the subtle audio cues. And to me, that's one of the biggest selling points with this. Because this is drowning out your PC noise, background noise to the level that it does, you do not have to play it as loud because you're not competing with your background noise floor. That's such an important thing to drive home for you to understand, because if you are one of those people that find that sometimes you're just playing it too loud, maybe dial it back a little bit, but this is a nice, easy way to transition into a more moderate listening volume while still being able to hear what's going on around you. So that's a very commendable feature and something very important to consider. When it comes to listening to music, I found these okay. I actually prefer with EQ listening to something like the G Pro X2 wireless. Those graphene drivers are just awesome. And on the more budget side, the new Void 2 wireless with EQ is a really nice listen for music. Without doing EQ for music, these have a better, more attainable sound profile out of the box, and you can push the bass like I said. So if you're chasing a more warm shape, boost 2000 hertz a little bit and boost the sub bass. Just add a low shelf and lift it, and that can make it a much more enjoyable listening for music. I didn't really have any gripes with it, and because this doesn't get to extreme volumes, distortion wasn't really an issue either. There's no like weird artifacts or any signs of the driver struggling to keep up with what you're being asked. Obviously, if you throw 12 decibels of bass at something like this, that's going to make any headset or headphones scream for mercy. So just be realistic with your expectations. Not a game-changing sound profile for music, but when you factor in the comfort and the noise cancellation features and all that, it's still a good enough performer in this range, and frankly sounds better than a lot of other sub $200 gaming headsets. Going back to gaming though, as far as kind of finalizing what I think makes this thing special. So when you embrace custom parametric EQ, whether it's using the presets that are listed there, my preset, or making your own, you factor in the overall comfort, the wireless stability, and how good of a noise floor this has because you can get rid of all your background noise. This is one of the most, if not the most competitive sub $200 wireless headsets I've ever used. There's been some huge hits lately. This has a really special capability of allowing you to get the sound that you want while also getting rid of all the sounds that you don't want. That combination is what makes this exceptional. It's not purely on the sound quality side. And that's kind of the magic sauce with the AceZone A-Blace. It's not just sound quality. It's not just active noise cancellation. It's not just parametric EQ or good comfort or wireless range. It's the fact that all of that is in one headset for $200. It's basically never been done before, and that makes this one of the best options to consider remotely close to this price range. And if anything, this is outperforming $300 plus headsets. It's really a remarkable headset, and this is the reason why I delayed my wireless headset roundup for the high-end stuff this year, because I knew this guy was coming and I wanted to give it a lot of playtime before covering it. So this is going to be compared against the best of the best, regardless of price, and I think that says a lot too. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching this. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you found the video helpful. I'd love to see you at the next one. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.